One day, we see a young boy in a strange world, and he finds a girl in front of him, so he asks her what exactly is this place they're in. The girl tells him it's called No Place and it doesn't have a name. The boy gets very confused and asks her how there can be a place with no name, so she tells him, fine, if you're that insistent, then name it yourself like the ones before you did. So he asks her about the names people gave the place before him, and she starts telling him several names, but the one that sticks in his head is Bibliotheca Dantalian. After a while, the boy notices the little girl is alone here, so he tells her that she must have gotten bored and felt lonely, and that's why he holds her hand to see if they can leave together. And that's when our story begins with the hero, Huie, in his car, talking to himself, saying that it's been about 6 months since he received the letter about his grandfather's death. He's very surprised because his grandfather died at the hands of a thief who broke into the house, and that's a strange way to die to him, since there was nothing valuable at his grandfather's except for the books, and it doesn't make sense that he'd die because of them. And we learn that his grandfather's only hobby, and everyone knew it, was collecting books, but not just any books, extremely rare ones. He used to travel for days and months to very different places around the world just to collect this type of book, to the point where people used to call him a man obsessed with books, and his behavior was so strange that his family and everyone around him were afraid of him and distanced themselves. But their biggest fear was from the books he collected, because there were rumors going around that he was gathering books that had forbidden magic and strange things no one could ever imagine. But Huie, even though he wasn't close to his grandfather, was the only one who received the letter of his death, and that didn't bother him because he was going to satisfy his curiosity and find an answer in his grandfather's books to what he had always been searching for. He finally arrives at his grandfather's mansion, and when he enters, he finds it really big, so he spends some time checking it out and notices that the place is super dusty, like it's been abandoned for 100 years. He walks around a bit, but then hears the sound of something moving, and curiosity leads him to follow the sound until he discovers it's coming from behind the bookcase. When he pushes it, he finds a secret passageway, dark and scary, so he puts on the collar of courage, lights his lighter, and enters with a brave heart. He keeps walking until he finds that the passage holds all the books that were supposed to be in the library, and in the middle of them, there's a little doll sitting on a chair. He looks at her and asks himself what brought this doll here, but suddenly sees the doll flipping through the book in her hand, so Huie gets startled at first, but then realizes she's just a normal human being, so he apologizes to her for the misunderstanding, and he tells her his name is Huie, grandson of the former owner of this mansion. She replies with surprise and asks him what brings the grandson of Wes here. That's when Huie realizes that she knew his grandfather, so he tells her that he came to look for something important. She asks him what that thing is, and he asks her if she knows something called Bibliotheca Dantalian. She tells him, where did you hear that name, and why are you looking for it? But Huie refuses to tell her the reason, and just says that it was written in his grandfather's will that he would be the new owner of Bibliotheca Dantalian. But there's something that's really on his mind right now, which is that the will had the name Dalian written in it, and Huie assumes that Dalian must be his grandfather's pet, and his grandfather wanted him to take care of his pet, and he's worried that Dalian must be hungry by now. That's when the girl stands in front of him in shock and slaps him across the face to wake him up and tells him that she is Dalian, and she's not a pet like he thought. Huie gets surprised, and to make up for what he did, he takes Dalian to the kitchen and starts preparing lunch like nothing happened. That's when Dalian starts going through his stuff and finds a bullet in his clothes pocket, so she asks him if he works as a soldier, and Huie tells her that he's a pilot, and they sit talking for a long time, and in the middle of the conversation Huie tells her that Dantalian is the name of an ancient monster that collected an infinite number of books, and there's a library with the same name and he wants to reach it himself, and Huie feels a bit disappointed because when he searched the books in the passage, he didn't find anything that caught his attention about Bibliotheca Dantalian. After that, Huie finishes the lunch, so he sits to eat with Dalian. At that moment, Dalian notices a key hanging around Huie's neck, so she asks Huie where he got that key from, but Huie doesn't get the chance to reply because the doorbell rings, and Huie tells Dalian that it must be his assistant. But when he opens the door, he finds a man standing there telling him that Mr. Conrad invited him to dinner at his house. So Huie remembers that Mr. Conrad might be an old friend of his grandfather and accepts the invitation, but Dalian insists and says she'll go with him too, and at night, they both ride in the car, and Dalian tells Huie that Conrad is the one who finished off his grandfather. But what's strange is that Huie isn't surprised and tells her, you mean Conrad disguised himself as a thief and went to steal his grandfather's books? So she replies to Huie in surprise, see, you already know the truth. Huie tells her that this was the rumor he heard, that his grandfather's relationship with Mr. Conrad was very bad and everyone knew about it, but there was no proof, and that's why he doesn't want any trouble. But Dalian tells him that there is proof and looks at the moon, then tells Huie that the moon is full now, and if Mr. Conrad is the one who stole the book, he'll see things he could have never imagined or heard of. They arrive at the mansion, but as soon as they enter, they find find the place destroyed and people dead. So Dalian tells Huie that it looks like they're a bit late, but that's not important. What matters now is finding the book Conrad stole. In the middle of the darkness, a strange-looking clown appears, moving really fast and trying to attack Huie, but Huie isn't one to be underestimated. He came prepared and brought a gun, which he uses to finish off the clown, but when that strange clown dies, he turns into dust. So Dalian tells Huie that the clown definitely came out of the book. After that, they walk a bit and keep going through the mansion, and Huie notices on the floor huge footprints, like those of an elephant, so they move away from them, but they end up facing something way worse, and it's a lion waiting for them. But Huie, out of fear, shoots the lion without thinking, and the lion dies. So Huie asks Dalian what's going on. First a clown, then an elephant, and now a lion. She tells Huie they might see snakes and tigers too, and to consider it like he's in a circus. Huie asks her what a circus has to do with what they're in now. So she tells him about a book called Harlequin Anne, and Huie mocks her, saying that the book story is just a collection of children's tales. But Dalian tells him the real book story is completely different, and it's the same one Conrad stole, and whoever reads that book is supposed to gain great power. But if the book falls into the wrong hands, it turns against its owner and brings out all the stories inside into the real world, causing harm and destruction. And that's exactly what happened with Conrad. And because that book was very dangerous, it was kept in Bibliotheca Dalian, and Grandpa Wes locked it in there himself. And since the book's power only appears when the moon is full, Conrad died today exactly because he couldn't control its power. They keep searching for the book, but in front of Conrad's office, they come across a huge dragon that corners them. So Huie tells Dalian that he'll distract the dragon, and she should run quickly to the office, get the book, and find a way to make all this disappear. But Dalian refuses to sacrifice Huie, so she tells him to take out the key he has, and when he does, she starts telling Huie that she acknowledges him as her guardian and asks him to read the words on the key. And when he does what she asked, the key flies and enters her body, and opens a library inside her called Labyrinth of Dantalian Books, and from it comes a book called Bear. At that moment, Dalian asks Huie to read that book, and when he starts reading from it, the dragon dies. So they both head to Conrad's office and seal the Harlequin and book, and everything that came out of it returns, and they take the book with them and head back to the mansion. And then we go back in time again to the little boy while he's in Bibliotheca Dantalian, and the girl with him tells him that all emotions and memories must pass through the library here first, and they're all stored in a book, and she gives him that book and tells him to leave quickly before the library closes its doors and he can't get out. The boy feels upset and doesn't want to leave and abandon the girl alone, but there's nothing he can do. And after that, Huie and Dalian are in a mansion, sitting with a woman who keeps apologizing to them because she didn't know that Wes had died, since she had sent a letter to his mansion asking for a favor and some money with it, and now she feels she sent the letter at a bad time. So Huie tells her not to worry because he's the one who took over his grandfather's work after he died, and he'll carry out her request since the mission's money reached him. But first he tells her that Dalian wants to see the library that's in this mansion, so Stella, the girl with them, takes them and shows them the library, and tells them she inherited it just like he did, after her grandfather also passed away. But since her grandfather died when she was young, she doesn't know the value of the books in the library. So Huie understands her request and tells her she wants him to estimate the value of each book there. She says yes. Then Huie hears music and asks her where it's coming from, so Stella tells him it's coming from the carillon, or the clock tower as people call it, and that it was also one of her grandfather's inventions before he died, and he made a lot of money from it, and the idea is that every hour, the clock tower must play music. This strange invention catches Huie's attention, and after Huie finishes his task, a man named Martin comes to meet and greet him, but as Martin shakes Huie's hand, he notices that Huie is wearing a glove on his left hand, while his right hand has nothing, but he doesn't care much and they shake hands, and Martin tells him that he's a relative of Stella and her guardian after her parents died, and he visits her every week to check on her, since she lives alone here in the mountains. So Huie asks him if he's the one forcing Stella to live alone in an empty and scary place like this, and Martin tells him he's got it completely wrong because Stella is cursed, and he explains everything to Huie about how the curse causes anyone who proposes to Stella to die. So Huie asks him if the person dies by murder or natural causes. Martin tells him that's not the important part and asks him if he knows anything about Stella's parents. So Huie tells him all he knows is that her parents died when she was young. Martin tells him that when she was little, her parents and all the servants died except for her, because someone tried to take her out of the mansion during the full moon, and he believes she's been cursed since then because of her grandfather's curse book that was with her. And he asks Huie to find that book and lift the curse off Stella, and tells him the book must be here in the mansion somewhere, but they haven't found it. He really wants Stella to be free from her prison, so after that, Huie starts searching in Stella's grandfather's library for any book that might be related to what happened to her, and he collects some books and goes to sit with Dalian, and he tells her that he found a handwritten book about crimes that happened a very long time ago, even before Stella was born, and what caught his attention was that those crimes stopped for a while, then started again when Stella was born, and Dalian tells him that no ghost book can curse its owner, because simply curses don't exist at all. But Huie tells her that many people believe curses are real, and they don't have to be true. Dalian doesn't care and keeps reading the book she's holding, but at that moment, Huie notices through the window that Martin is taking Stella out very late at night, and they're walking, but he doesn't pay much attention because Martin is Stella's relative and wouldn't do anything bad to her. When the clock tower chimes, Huie tells Dalian that they need to sleep now, but they don't get the chance because they see a terrifying sight and rush downstairs to find people dead in the mansion, and Stella covered in blood with a giant monster beside her. Even Huie's bullets don't affect it. Then the monster flies and disappears completely from the place. So Huie checks on Stella, and she asks him about Martin. He tells her that Martin was killed by the monster that was there. But what's strange is that Stella doesn't get sad or show any signs of grief. On the contrary, she acts weird and starts saying very strange things and walks off. The next day, Huie is still discussing with Dalian the idea of curses, and Dalian tells him they don't exist and it's all nonsense. So Huie asks her how she can explain the monster that was next to Stella yesterday. Dalian tells him that there's something called a golem, and it's a monster made of clay like the one they saw yesterday, and it appears when a certain book is read. But every golem has a master who controls it, because the golem can't do anything on its own. It doesn't even have a brain to think, and that's not considered a curse, and all they need to know now is who the golem's master is that ordered it to eliminate Martin. So Dalian goes to the library to search for the ghost book, and Huie follows her there but finds her just sitting and doing nothing, reading a book like always. So he tells her they need to search for the book quickly and find it, but she tells him she's reading something important, and she discovered that Stella's mother was from another land but migrated to this city after her people exiled her because of a series of murders that kept happening, and they suspected those murders were caused by her and her family. Then Stella enters and brings Huie a special meal she prepared for him and asks him not to ever leave her, but Huie tells her that once he finishes his work, he'll be leaving. She starts to change and tells him he promised not to leave her ever, and because he broke his promise, she pulls out a knife and stabs him, but nothing happens to Huie because the knife hits the book he had hidden in his clothes. At that moment, Dalian understands everything and tells Huie that Stella's mother and grandmother used to kill many people, and that habit was passed on to Stella. That's why the grandfather created the golem, to erase any evidence against Stella, her mother, and her grandmother. Dalian asks Huie to open the labyrinth of books inside her, and Huie listens to her and pulls out a book and starts reading it until the golem dies, and after it dies, they find that the clock tower and Stella's mansion collapse completely. Stella refuses to leave and abandon the mansion, so she dies too, but Huie and Dalian solve another case they've encountered, and the next day, Huie and Dalian go to a library in the city to buy some books, but this time normal books just to read. But every time Dalian talks to Huie, he ignores her because he's focused on the books he wants to buy, so she gets angry and spoils the ending of every book he picks up, and they start arguing in front of each other because he's ignoring her, to the point where their voices get loud, and a girl comes over and tells them that they're both really annoying. But then she laughs, so when Huie sees her, he recognizes her, and he tells Dalian, this is Camilla, the daughter of a well-known merchant here, and they've been friends since childhood, and he introduces Camilla to Dalian. So Camilla says this must be the girl Louise adopted when she was little. Camilla is very kind, but Dalian's personality is a bit introverted, and she hides behind Huie and doesn't feel comfortable around Camilla. Huie asks Camilla what she's doing here, and she tells him she's looking for school books for kids, and Camilla invites both of them to come have some tea at her house and chat for a bit, but Dalian keeps pushing Huie so he doesn't agree, and when Camilla notices that, she pulls out a bag of sweets from her purse and tries to tempt Dalian with it, and when she sees that Dalian is starting to react, she tells them there are lots more sweets at her house. At that point, Dalian completely gives in and yells at Huie, asking what he's still standing here for. They need to go now to that strange lady's house with the weird clothes like her. As soon as they get to Camilla's house, Camilla tells her that her clothes, by the way, are from France, not just anywhere, and they start fighting. Camilla gets angry at Dalian, so Huie gets fed up with them and changes the subject, and at that moment, Camilla asks him if he knows any book that could increase the intelligence of whoever reads it. Huie tells her she must need that kind of book for the kids at the school. She tells him yes, because another school has opened and started competing with them, and the owner of that school is a girl named Reed. They both know her from childhood. She says that Reed brought a fantasy book to her students and made them read it, and their intelligence level increased. But the strange thing is that afterward, Camilla noticed Reed started acting weird and locked herself in her house and told her that all her students will start acting like completely different people in a few days, and she suspects it's all because of the book, and her suspicion is correct because Dalian and Huie are also sure that the book is the reason, and Dalian tells her that the fantasy book she's talking about is called the Book of of wisdom, and it can give its reader vast knowledge that could destroy the world. Huie tells her they have to move quickly and find the book, so Dalian tells him they have a copy in the library, and she could give it to him if he begs her a little, but Huie ignores Dalian again, and asks Camilla to take him to Reed's house right away. When they get there, Huie asks Reed what happened, and Reed tells him he can go ask the monsters at the school because they know everything now. Camilla tells her not to call her students that way, but Reed speaks with total despair and tells her they're not students anymore. They've become like monsters, completely changed. Huie says the book must be the thing that changed them. Reed now wishes she had never found that book at all, so Huie asks her exactly where she found the book. She tells him the location, and he leaves her with Camilla and heads with Dalian to the place she mentioned. When they enter, they find a group of kids who recognize Huie and Dalian right away and tell him he must have come for the Book of Wisdom. That's when Huie realizes these are Reed's students who know everything, so he's not surprised. He asks them what they plan to do with all the knowledge they've gained, and one of them tells him they literally don't plan to do anything. They used to think about taking over humanity, but now the idea sounds really boring, and they tell Huie that he can take the Book of Wisdom because they no longer need it. So without arguing with them, Huie takes the book and leaves, and meets up with Camilla, and the three of them burn the book. After that, Huie goes back with Dalian to their mansion, and Dalian heads to the old Garden of Wes and starts caring for his giant rare plants, telling Huie that these plants will bloom in 13 years, and she hopes she'll live to see them. When Huie notices this soft side of Dalian, he wants to reward her and tells her that Camilla sent them some chocolates just for her. Then someone knocks on the mansion door, so he goes and opens it and finds two people telling him they're from a company and came to meet Wes. Huie tells them Wes is dead and that he's his grandson, so the two of them attack Huie, but Huie is very strong and takes one of them down, so the other one pulls his gun on Dalian to stop Huie. That's when Huie realizes they're both thieves, and they confirm it. They tell him they came because they heard about a very valuable book in the mansion they want, and its name is Queen of the Night. They tie up Huie and Dalian and sit them in the library while they search for the book, but they discover the library is packed from end to end with books, and it's really hard, and they can't find it. That frustrates them, so they go and ask Huie where it is, but Huie refuses to tell them, so the man hits him and asks Dalian about the book's location. Dalian tells him that the book isn't even here, but he doesn't believe her and keeps searching the mansion. Dalian warns one of them and tells him not to go in that direction, but he doesn't listen to her, and a few minutes later, everyone hears his scream. So his partner goes to check on him and follows the sound until he reaches the mansion's garden, but he doesn't find his friend. He finds something better. The book he was looking for, it's on the giant plant that Dalian had talked about, but suddenly he disappears too, and Dalian and Huie manage to free themselves and rush to the garden. Dalian tells Huie, who's very close to the giant plant after spotting a book on it, that this plant is the Queen of the Night itself, and they shouldn't get close to it or its book because it opens every 13 years to feed on flesh. Then after one night, it withers again, and the page of the book on it falls and disappears. And that's exactly what happens. The book's page begins to fall and the thieves die, and after a few days, Dalian is sitting extremely angry with Huie because the set of books she wanted came incomplete, and she tells him how could he not bring the third volume of the book she wanted to read. So Huie tells her that only 2 books were available because the author stopped writing the third part, and Dalian breaks down because she can't wait and really wanted to know what happens in part 3, but Huie ignores everything she says, and he tells her that there's something important he found in the book order, a letter from the author himself named Lenny to Grandpa Wes, asking for his help because he got imprisoned inside a book, and before Huie finishes speaking, he finds that Dalian pulls him up so they can go and understand more about what happened. Huie gets up with her, and they both go to Lenny's house and ask his wife if Lenny is available or free to meet them, but his wife tells them that Lenny is currently working on a new book and won't be able to see them and asks Huie to come the next day, and she'll convince Lenny to meet them. Huie apologizes for wasting her time, but Dalian tells him something strange because she read before in one of Lenny's books that he wrote it in memory of his dead wife. So who did they just meet a while ago? And indeed, the woman they met, named Paula, looks strange and suspicious and has a blood-covered knife hidden behind her. At night, she goes to throw that knife into the well and walks away. At that time, Huie and Dalian return to Lenny's house because they're suspicious of Paula, and as soon as they enter, they find the house is dark. So Huie lights his lighter, and inside they find the corpse of the writer Lenny and a woman imprisoned in a cell inside the house who's terrified of them because she thinks they're with Paula. They reassure her, and Huie asks her who she is and what she's doing here. She tells them she's Lenny's lover, so Huie tells her to step back from the cell so he can break it and get her out, but she stops him and tells him not to do that because she can't leave and asks him to come back the next day and take Lenny and run away. Huie is confused because Lenny is supposed to be dead and she's the one who needs saving, but she insists on what she's saying, so Huie agrees, takes Dalian, and they leave. The next day, they return to Lenny's house, and Paula meets them and starts talking endlessly, and every now and then Dalian tells her they want to meet Lenny, and they're sure she's going to do something suspicious they can use as proof that she killed Lenny. But strangely, she takes them to a well-locked room, opens it, and they find Lenny sitting and welcoming them. Huie tries to hide his shock and talks to Lenny very normally, even asking him about the third part of his book. Lenny sits and starts writing the book in front of him, but Huie notices that Lenny is passing him a message through his writing, telling him to come at night and save Ladish and not worry about him because he'll be free once he finishes the third volume of the book. So Huie tells him they came to get his signature for Dalian's book, and Lenny signs it, and they both leave. At that moment, Huie compares Lenny's handwriting in the book with the handwriting in the letter and finds they are the same, confirming that this is Lenny and not someone who looks like him. So they return at night to save Ladish, his lover, just like he asked them. But the surprise is that they find Ladish is the one who's dead. That's when Dalian understands everything and tells Huie that this is the soul exchange book. Yesterday it was Lenny who was dead, and today he came back when Ladish died. At that moment, Lenny enters, but Paula follows behind and shoots him in the leg in front of them and locks Huie and Dalian in the cell. When she comes to kill Lenny, Huie stops her and tells her he knows everything about her, and that she's an obsessed fan of Lenny's writings, and that's why she did all this when he decided to stop writing the third part. She's jealous of Ladish because after all the letters she wrote to Lenny, he ignored her and fell in love with Ladish after his wife died. Out of rage, she shoots Lenny again, and that's when Ladish wakes up and yells at Huie for not listening to her and for taking Lenny and running. Paula kills Ladish again, and that moment Lenny is the one who returns to life, and Dalian tells Huie that the book in Paula's hand is called the Soul Exchange Book, and it's the cause of everything happening because it was written by a genius and insane doctor at the same time. It's based on one soul switching between two dead bodies, but the soul can't live in a body for more than one night, which is why they both couldn't escape. Paula is so insane that she keeps killing both of them, and each time one wakes up, she kills them again. This creates a mutation in them called the death resistance mutation. From dying every night, both of them suddenly wake up, their souls merge into one body, and a monster forms that ends up killing Paula and makes the book and the keys fall from her. After Paula dies, Huie takes the keys and opens the cell and holds the book. Dalian tells him to open the labyrinth of books inside her, but Huie tells her there's no need because the monster will die on its own, and that's exactly what happens. The monster dies along with Ladish and Lenny, and after they return to the mansion, as usual, they argue, and Huie takes a stack of books from Dalian that's bigger than him and goes to open the door that's knocking, and there's a man named Arnie begging him to give him one of his phantom books. As soon as Huie and Dalian hear the words Phantom Book, they know it's a new mission and go with Arnie to meet the woman who asked him for the Phantom Book. Dalian is very surprised that Viola, the woman Arnie proposed to, requested a Phantom Book, and she's sure there's something behind it. Arnie tells Dalian to behave when she sees Viola, because he knows how bad her attitude is with everyone, and Dalian imagines that once she sees Viola, she'll be an ugly woman because she knows Arnie's taste, and Arnie isn't exactly a Prince Charming for a pretty woman to accept him, but she's shocked the moment they arrive at Viola's mansion because she finds an incredibly beautiful girl, and Arnie introduces her to Huie and says this is his former commander, and this is Dalian, the girl Wes adopted. But Dalian gets straight to the point and asks Viola why she wants a Phantom Book, because they didn't come to hear her strange love story with Arnie. Viola acts politely and apologizes to Dalian if she upset her, and she calls Dalian the Black Princess, the princess of Bibliotheca Dantalian and its guardian. Huie is surprised that Viola knows Dalian, and Dalian asks her where she learned all that, so Viola tells her that she has knowledge but no memory. All she remembers is from 3 years ago when she arrived at the mansion here. Huie then notices a giant flying monster and shoots at it, but the monster isn't affected and tells Viola that she's out of time because the Count is coming to take her, and she must prepare before the full moon night, and then the monster disappears. At that moment, Dalian realizes that Viola is doing all this to find a Phantom Book that will allow her to fight off the Count who's coming for her and protect herself. Viola tells her that's exactly what she wanted because that's what she felt inside. So Dalian asks her why she stayed living in this city and didn't try to run away. Viola tells her she doesn't know, but she always felt like someone was waiting for her here in the city, and she wouldn't leave until she saw him. Dalian takes Huie and tells Viola they'll return on the night of the full moon, but when they return on the full moon night, they find they're not the only ones there. A huge group of men are waiting to rescue Viola, just like Arnie, and they've even brought Phantom Books like Viola asked them to. As soon as she comes down, they all gather around her and tell her they're going to save her from the evil Count, but Viola asks them all to run away, but they tell her they've collected the 5 phantom books she requested from them. She asks them again to run away, but then someone speaks while flying above them and tells Viola he's disappointed in her for gathering a bunch of useless men and bringing 5 phantom books to fight him, so all the men try to kill him with their weapons, but he's not affected and kills most of those present, then goes to Viola and asks her to come with him. The surprise is that Viola turns out to be his daughter, and everyone is shocked, but Huie notices that the people who died weren't bleeding blood, but a silver liquid, so he asks Dalian if that evil man is also using a phantom book that gives him the power to do this to people, but Dalian tells him she doesn't feel like this is caused by a phantom book. The evil man goes to his daughter Viola and tells her that her experiment was a success in attracting all these men around her, but Viola is scared of him and tries to run. He gets angry and summons flying monsters that attack all the men protecting Viola. Huie is confused and asks Dalian how this kind of power isn't from a phantom book, and Dalian tells him the man is using forbidden knowledge because he's a real sorcerer. He doesn't need phantom books at all. That's when Huie understands everything and tells Dalian that the sorcerer must come on the night of the full moon because the moon gives him his power. The sorcerer hears him and says he's absolutely right, and his name is Menjar, and that the title Count was given to him long ago by a prince from a very ancient time. He warmly welcomes Dalian and tells her it's a great honor for him to meet the Black Princess, and Dalian tells him it's also an honor for her to meet such a powerful sorcerer like him now. The sorcerer tells her that she can sit and watch him return his daughter, and then she'll witness true power, but Arnie stands in front of him and tells him he won't allow him to take Viola away. The sorcerer orders his monsters to attack Arnie, but Viola transforms and rushes to attack all the monsters and destroys them. The sorcerer watches and laughs at her and tells all the men who stood to protect her that they need to know the truth about the girl they're ready to die for. Turns out Viola isn't human at all. The sorcerer was the one who created her, and her first test was to attract all these men and control them, and she succeeded in the experiment. At that moment, Dalian asks the sorcerer what he plans to do with Viola now, and the sorcerer says he's going to take her and continue experimenting on her. But Arnie doesn't agree with that and insists on protecting Viola even if she's not real. Amidst everything happening, Dalian tells Huie to open the labyrinth of books with his key and take out a book to end all of this, and Huie listens to her, takes the book, and starts reading. A battle begins between the book and the magic, but the sorcerer decides to leave on his own terms and gives Viola the chance to live in an artificial, unreal body. He tells the Black Princess and the Keykeeper, that is, Dalian and Huie, that he'll meet them again very soon, and suddenly the sorcerer disappears. Arnie and all the men gather in a row in front of Viola after saving her, and ask her to choose one of them to marry. When Viola stands to choose, a completely new man arrives just then, and she's very impressed by him and enchanted, and tells them she's chosen him. They're all shocked after everything they did for her, and in the end, she chose someone else. Even Dalian is surprised and tells Huie that a woman's heart is stranger than 100 phantom books, and then we see a man driving his car with a girl next to him, and a policewoman named Mabel stops them, and the man is a bit surprised because he's not used to seeing female police officers, so Mabel tells him that after the last war, there weren't enough men left, so she's doing the job and protecting the town. He gets a bit awkward and tells her his name is Hal, and the girl next to him is Flam. Mabel asks them what exactly they're doing here. Hal tells her they're looking for a little girl with a lock on her heart who's always holding a book and walks with an older man. That turns out to be Huie and Dalian, but Mabel doesn't know them. However, she notices that there's a strange-looking scepter in Hal's car, so she asks Hal what his job is exactly. Hal tells her that he's also a police officer like her, but in a division called the Book Burners, and he's looking for an important book with the girl. Hal asks her if she knows of any nearby hotel where he and Flam can spend the night, but Mabel tells him there's nothing close by at the moment and offers them to stay at her place. Hal is surprised and asks her why she would offer them something like that, so Mabel tells him that she likes to keep suspicious people she doubts under close watch. Hal agrees, and she rides with them in the car, but before that, she goes to buy a few things for dinner. After that, Hal tells her there's something strange in this town because around 80 people have disappeared mysteriously over the last 2 years. Mabel is shocked and tells him that's impossible because she's in charge of the town's safety, and nothing like what he's saying has happened. Hal tells her the missing people aren't from the town. They were some peddlers and merchants who pass through every now and then. Mabel asks him if the 2 people he's asking about are among the 80 who went missing. Hal says he doesn't know, but one of his missions is to make sure those 2 specifically aren't behind the disappearances. After After that, Mabel takes them to her house, which is very big, and tells them she doesn't live alone. She takes them to greet her grandfather and grandmother, but her little sister Patty screams at them as soon as she sees them and tells them to leave town immediately. Mabel scolds her because her behavior was very rude. Mabel apologizes to them and shows them to their room. At night, Hal leaves the house and walks around the town, and he finds many houses completely burned and destroyed with no sign of life. He keeps walking around the burned town until a girl approaches him and starts talking. Hal, being clever, asks her what she's doing here since there's no one else around, so who sent her? That's when the girl starts transforming into a monster and acts very strangely and attacks Hal. Hal takes her down and suspects she's the monster that's been killing the travelers and merchants passing through the town. He returns to Mabel's house but finds that her grandparents welcome him the exact same way as in the morning, as if they're programmed to do it. When he goes to Flam, he finds Patty sleeping next to her, so he wakes her up and asks her about the last guests who came to the house. Patty tells him they disappeared. Hal takes Flam and leaves the house, and they both go to a factory in the town. Flam tells Hal the factory looks gloomy and scary because they used to make bombs there during the war. Hal says the factory was indeed used to make bombs during the war, so what's the explanation for why it's still running now when there's no war? They discover that the factory is operating and making dolls that look creepy and strange. Dolls shaped like humans, and these dolls themselves are working in the factory, making more dolls and dressing them to look like the townspeople. Hal tells Flam that these dolls are working because of ancient black magic that temporarily breathes life into them and makes them move, and he's sure the one behind all this is Mabel. Suddenly, Mabel appears in front of them and asks Hal how he figured out the truth. Hal tells her from the moment he saw her. He says from the moment he arrived in town, he intentionally tried to attract attention because the first one to approach them and try to get close would be the main suspect and would have a connection to the Black Princess. As soon as Mabel hears the name Black Princess, she remembers when she was younger and the war had destroyed her town. The Black Princess was standing there, watching the fire and the war, confused by how humans waste their time on such meaningless things. When she saw Mabel broken in front of her, she gave her a phantom book about ghosts to entertain herself. That book had the black magic spell that allowed Mabel to control the dolls and replace them with the townspeople. She tells Hal that during the war, a bomb accidentally hit the gunpowder factory, which caused the whole town to burn and most of its people to die. She did all this to protect the townspeople, nothing more. But Hal tells her she doesn't understand anything because these dolls she's moving, when someone asks them a strange question about themselves or something unexpected, they turn into monsters, and they're the reason anyone who passes through the town dies. Because of her, everyone in the town now is fake, and maybe over the years life could have returned to normal. But with these strange dolls of hers, that will never happen. Mabel tells him it's too late for that now and orders her dolls to attack Hal. But Hal takes them all down and turns out to be a keykeeper like Huie. He uses the symbol on his arm to open the lock on Flam's heart, which reveals a library inside her called the Lost Library, and a book comes out of it. But Mabel tells him she won't let him live long enough to read the book. She'll kill him first. Hal tells her he's not going to read the book anyway, because as soon as he places it in his scepter, all the dolls around them vanish, even the ones in the town. The soul inside them disappears, and Mabel collapses. Hal carries her and returns her to her home, and when Patty opens the door, he tells her what happened and explains that he didn't kill Mabel for her sake. He only erased her memories related to the incident and everything that happened. Patty thanks him as he completes his mission and leaves. Meanwhile, Huie and Dalian are standing in front of a popular bakery in their town for hours just to buy the things Dalian likes and get her to stop nagging Huie. Finally, when it's their turn and they get their items, a girl starts running around the place, and as soon as she sees Huie, she says he looks kind and nice and will surely help her, because some people are chasing her and she doesn't know how to escape from them. But Dalian pushes her away and tells them they've got enough to deal with, and a little argument starts between them. But just then, the people chasing the girl, whose name is Fiona, enter, and as soon as she sees them, she snatches the bag of baked goods from Huie's hands and runs. Huie stops the men from getting close to Fiona, and Fiona tells Huie that she was sure he was a good man and would help her, so Huie tells her she might as well give back the bag she just took. Fiona tells him she'll give it back once he saves her from the men chasing her, but as she's running, she trips and drops all the baked goods in her hands. The men chasing her run to help her, and Dalian starts crying because the things she really wanted are now on the ground. To make it up to Huie and Dalian, the men who were chasing Fiona take them to her mansion, and they meet her father, who apologizes deeply and compensates them for the things his daughter dropped. Turns out her father is a very famous and well-known man, and he apologizes to Huie for his tomboyish daughter Fiona and says he doesn't know how to deal with her anymore. Her behavior has worn him out. Huie tells Dalian that Fiona's father owns a company called Feminaz, which is very famous in herbal products and perfume production too. Fiona's father tells them that Fiona is also very talented like him and is the one who develops their products, and because of her, they make a lot of money every year. But while they're talking, Huie notices that on the perfume bottle, there's a carved image of a book. He asks Fiona's father about the book story that's on the perfume bottle. Fiona's father says the book belonged to his father, and he doesn't know anything about it, just that the book gave his father the formula for making the perfume, and that's what made them one of the most famous companies in the industry. But after his father died, he didn't give him the book. Instead, he gave it to his granddaughter Fiona. He doesn't know what the book is about, but in the end, it's just a book and he has no curiosity to read it. But those words don't sit well with Dalian, and she's suspicious that this book is not just an ordinary one. After that, the visit ends because Fiona's father gets a guest from Badak. Fiona's father apologizes again for what his daughter did and says goodbye. But before leaving, Huie asks to see Fiona one last time, and he agrees. Huie and Dalian go to meet Fiona, and on the way, Dalian asks Huie about Badak. Huie tells her that in front of the world, Badak is just a normal company, but in reality, it's a group of people involved in fraud and scams. Then they arrive at the place where Fiona is. It's a small house next to the mansion where she always lives because she makes her perfumes there. Fiona greets them warmly as soon as she sees them and starts chatting, and we notice that Fiona can identify people by their scent. That's why, when she smelled Huie, she knew he was a good man. Huie gets to the point and asks her why she ran away from her father's mansion and why her house key is with the guard, not with her. She tells him that recently she and her father haven't been seeing eye to eye anymore because her father only cares about money now. Their latest product, called Blutris, was a total failure, yet her father launched it in the market without even asking her. Besides, she wants to make a perfume that makes people happy, something that, just by smelling it, brings joy, and she's sure she can do it, otherwise her grandfather wouldn't have given her the book. Dalian looks at her and tells her she wants to see the book. Fiona finds that strange, so Huie tells Fiona they're not here to ask her why she ran away. The main reason they came is because they want to see the book and confirm that it's a regular book, not a phantom book for ghosts. But just then, the door gets knocked hard. When she opens it, she finds a man who looks very sick and is begging her, saying he wants the relic. She asks him how he found out about the relic, and Huie asks him what happened to the guard outside. Where is he now and how did he let him in? The man says the guard quickly went to his boss because the Badak company wants to kill him. Fiona gets very scared for her father and runs to save him, but as soon as she reaches the study, she finds him dead and there's a man sitting there waiting for her. When he sees her, he warmly welcomes her because she's the girl who let him taste happiness for the first time when she made the relic. Dalian asks him what this relic is that everyone's suddenly talking about. The man, whose name is Noth, pulls out a small perfume bottle and says this is the relic. Every time he smells it, he feels something incredibly good. But Fiona tells him he's wrong because that's Blutris, a very strong drug she accidentally made, and if he keeps smelling it too much, it could drive him insane. Then another man appears. His name is Vince, and he has the formula for the relic. He tells Noth that their job is done because once they kill Fiona, they'll be the only ones who know the relic's formula and can manufacture it. Huie tries to stop them, and they all start fighting. But in the middle of the fight, Fiona stands in front of Huie because one of them tries to stab him, and Huie isn't paying attention, so the knife hits her instead. But she has a perfume bottle with her that she throws at Noth, which destroys all his senses and kills him. Dalian gets very scared for Fiona and asks Huie to open the labyrinth library and take out the healing book and read from it to heal Fiona. Huie does that, pulls out the book, and starts reading until Fiona is okay. At that moment, Fiona thanks them and tells them she'll finally let them see her grandfather's book. But strangely, Fiona pulls out another perfume and sprays it on Huie and Dalian, making them lose consciousness. She ties them up, and when Huie wakes up, Dalian tells him that Fiona ran away with one of Badak's men, but she left a key with her. Huie unties himself, unties Dalian, and takes the key from her to figure out what it opens. They search the mansion until they unlock a room door, and they find Fiona standing inside, wounded again. She tells them she tried to stop her father from selling the relic to Badak, but she couldn't. That's why she ran away from him, but now she's not going to run anymore. She went herself with one of Badak's men and eliminated them all. The relic's formula will be buried with her, and she dies, and they're not able to save her because the healing book can't save someone twice. The next day, Huie and Dalian return to the mansion, and this time someone knocks on the door. Huie goes to open it and finds a strange man. He asks who he is, but it turns out that the man is actually Camilla disguised in men's clothes. She starts teasing Dalian and sticks her fake mustache on her and laughs with Huie. When Dalian gets upset, Camilla realizes she found her weak spot and pulls out a box of chocolates and gives it to her. Dalian goes quiet and continues reading her book while eating the treats Camilla brought with her. At that moment, Camilla notices that the book Dalian is reading has a collection of cute teddy bear pictures, so she tells Dalian she never expected her to like such things and asks her which one she likes most. Dalian points to a picture of the teddy bear she wants, but it's very expensive because it's made in Germany. After that, Camilla asks Huie to give her something he has on him. Huie asks, like what? And she tells him, anything good, so he pulls a paper clip from his pocket. She takes it and leaves, and Huie is confused by her behavior. He tells Dalian that Camilla said there was another gift, but she left before giving it. Then Huie and Dalian head to the bookstore because the seller there discovered a phantom book in his shop and asked for their help to confirm it. But when they get there, the old man looks for the book but can't find it, and remembers that he might have sold it this morning during a discount event by mistake. Huie asks him if he remembers who bought it, and the man tells him it was probably a girl dressed like a man. They immediately realize it was Camilla. Dalian asks him the name of the phantom book, and he tells her it's called the Book of Equality. Dalian is shocked the moment she hears the name. Realizing it's definitely a phantom book, they get in the car to go to Camilla. On the way, Huie asks Dalian why she was so shocked when she heard the book's name. Dalian tells him that whoever reads the book aloud can swap anything they own with something from someone else, allowing the reader to take whatever they want no matter what. Huie says it must be of equal value to make the exchange, but Dalian tells him that what's valuable to one person might not be to another, and that lowers its worth. Then they arrive at Camilla's house, but she's not there. Her servant tells them she came a little while ago, changed clothes, and left because she had an appointment at Mrs. Wilson's house. At that moment, Huie notices that the servant has the same paperclip he gave to Camilla. He asks the servant how he got it, and the servant says Camilla gave it to him in exchange for his watch. That's when they realize Camilla used the book, so they quickly head to Mrs. Wilson's house but find that Camilla already left and went somewhere else. They keep searching for her and discover that she's been trading many things with people all over town. Then a man points them to Mr. Varen's mansion. Huie tells Dalian he's heard very bad stories about Mr. Varen. He's a man who loves collecting rare and strange things. Camilla is indeed there and is negotiating with Mr. Varen to get the teddy bear Dalian wanted. Mr. Varen tells her that the teddy bear is extremely valuable to him, maybe even more than his own life. Then we see Huie and Dalian finally arriving at Mr. Varen's mansion, but they find Camilla coming out, holding the teddy bear and offering it to Dalian. Huie asks her how she managed to get the teddy bear. Camilla tells him she convinced Mr. Varen to make the trade, even though it was very dear to him. He even said it was more precious than his life. Huie asks her what exactly she traded the teddy bear for. Camilla tells him Mr. Varen is extremely greedy and the deal was tough, but in the end, she traded the book she had for the teddy bear. Huie is shocked that she gave up the Book of Equality just to get the teddy bear for Dalian. Afterward, they all return to the mansion, and Huie asks Camilla if she regrets giving away such an important book. Camilla tells him she's not upset at all because it honestly didn't mean much to her. Then there's a knock on the door. Huie opens it and finds Arnie there, looking very scared. He tells Dalian and Camilla to run quickly. Suddenly, giant tree branches emerge from Arnie's hand, and he can't control them. After Arnie calms down, the power fades too, and he starts talking to Huie, telling him that he met a girl named Lena, his lover, and starts talking about her. Huie tells him that if he came just to talk about his girlfriend, then he better leave. Arnie tells him that Lena has a phantom book, and the strange power that came from his right hand is because of the book she has. Huie asks him the name of the book Lena has. Arnie tells him it's the Book of Connection. Dalian tells them that the Book of Connection is split in half, and each half tries to reunite with the other. Arnie confirms this and tells Huie that he found the first half, and when he heard about the story of the book and knew it could bring lovers together, he asked his assistants to look for the second half. But it turned out the second half was with Lena. When he met her, they fell in love and got engaged, and he spent the happiest moments of his life with her. But before he finishes his story, Dalian tells him, "You must have cheated on her afterward." Arnie denies it and says he would never do that. Dalian tells him there's no need to deny it, because this power wouldn't affect him unless he betrayed her. Arnie denies it again and says Lena is extremely jealous. Every time he talked to another girl normally, she'd get jealous. One time he helped a girl who had fallen to get up, and Lena got jealous. Another time he was talking to a maid, and when Lena saw them, she got furious. That's when the book started glowing strangely, and he got hit with that power, even though he didn't cheat or anything. While they're still talking, Arnie notices through the window that Lena is outside the mansion. He gets terrified and asks Huie to help him. Huie agrees and goes to open the door for Lena. She asks about Arnie. Huie brings her in, and as soon as she sees Arnie, she holds the book and places it in front of him. The book burns Arnie. After completing her task, Lena thanks Huie and leaves. That night, Huie reads from the Book of Resurrection and brings Arnie back to life, just like they planned. The curse that had struck Arnie was lifted after his death, so Arnie thanks Huie for helping him. him. Huie tells him not to go near those phantom books ever again. Then we see an old woman calling out to her granddaughter Era to bring her the groceries. But her granddaughter Era doesn't respond because she's in the city at that moment, watching from a distance a man and a girl who seem new in town. After that, she helps the soldiers, telling them what to do about their injuries. Her uncle Yanni comes over and calls her. Her uncle Yanni is one of the soldiers, and he asks her to take them to her grandmother. She asks him if someone else died, but he doesn't reply and tells her they need the wisdom and strength of the village elders. But Era tries to run away from them, and her uncle chases her until they reach her grandmother's house. Her grandmother isn't welcoming at all, and tells them that armed men who go around killing people are not welcome in her house. He tells her that the Micho fortress was completely destroyed. She says she's not interested in hearing any of his war stories. Yanni tells her it's not a war, because the people of the fortress and the surrounding area were killed by flying insects. Era recognizes what kind of insects they were and says they're called the Bezimo. Her uncle tells her she's right, because the flying Bezimo insects were the ones responsible. Her grandmother asks what he wants from her now, and Yanni says he needs the power of the Aganas. As soon as she hears that name, she gets angry and throws him out, telling him she won't help him. Even when he begs, it's no use because she goes inside and ignores him. After Yanni and the guards leave, Era's grandmother tells her that there's a tree in the northern forest that grows white leaves called Aganas, and she asks her to collect some of those leaves. She has to run as fast as the wind because she won't be able to find the tree if night falls. Era listens to her and starts running a lot until she gets tired and takes a short break, but then she hears gunfire and gets scared. Turns out to be Huie and Dalian, the same two visitors she saw in the morning. Era notices Huie is standing next to the tree she was looking for and gets very happy. Dalian is curious and wants to know more about Era, so she starts asking her a few questions, because she didn't expect anyone else to know about the white tree. She asks if Era is a doctor or a sorceress, and Era says both. Her grandmother told her about the tree. Dalian asks her if they're planning to use the poisonous leaves to make arrows to fight the Bezimo insects. Era is surprised Dalian knows about the Bezimo insects. Dalian tells her that if she ever sees one of those insects, she shouldn't be brave and try to fight it with poison arrows, because she won't stand a chance, and the poison won't work on them. The first thing she should do is run. Then Huie asks Era if she knows any place around here that sells books. Era tells him he'll find one in the city on the same street he was in that morning. Dalian starts yelling at him because, thanks to him, they walked such a long distance that they ended up in the middle of the forest even though they were right next to the place they wanted. After that, Era returns to her grandmother's house. Her grandmother takes the poisonous leaves and makes a liquid from them, puts it in a bottle, and gives it to Era. She tells her she knows she must be worried about Tito and needs to go to the city quickly to protect him, and to throw the poison on the insects if she sees them. Era listens to her and runs quickly to the city. From a distance, she sees the city is fine and feels relieved, but when she gets there, she finds the insects have entered the city and destroyed it. She tries to defend herself from the insects and throws the poison her grandmother gave her, but it doesn't affect them. She remembers what Dalian said, that the poison wouldn't work and that she should run as soon as she sees one of them. But she's nervous and doesn't know what to do. Luckily, Dalian and Huie arrive and save her. Huie shoots at the insects with his gun, but the insects aren't affected by bullets. Huie and Dalian are in this place because they found out the insects were attacking books in the trucks and had destroyed some earlier. Now they were heading to destroy the rest of the books, which are with the villagers who fled to Era's grandmother's house in the mountains. Yanni had gathered them and was blaming Era's grandmother for not giving them the poison that would let them kill the insects. At that moment, Era, Huie, and Dalian arrive. Era goes to check on Tito, her lover, and when she finds him okay, she goes to Yanni and tells him the poison didn't affect the insects like he thought it would. Huie and Dalian explain that these insects came here to destroy the books Tito took with him. And just as they're talking, the insects arrive, and everyone panics and is terrified. Dalian gives Huie the order to open the labyrinth library and pull out a book to eliminate the insects. Huie does that, pulls out a book from the labyrinth and starts reading from it. At that moment, the insects are destroyed and the townspeople are saved. Era is very impressed by their power and keeps thanking them. Dalian tells her that she and Huie have to leave now, but Era doesn't want them to go. She wants to spend more time with them. That's when Dalian tells her that she sees her every day and apologizes for intruding in her world. But Era doesn't understand anything, and Huie and Dalian disappear. It turns out that when Huie and Dalian read a certain book about Princess Era, they entered it and lived in her time, and after helping her defeat the insects, they were able to leave it and return to their world. Then Huie and Dalian go on a little outing in the garden. Dalian sits and eats, and Huie starts playing the violin, fully immersed in it, but his playing is so terrible that Dalian gets annoyed and throws her plate at him to make him stop. He gets mad at her, and they start arguing with each other, but suddenly a strange girl appears next to Dalian, and as soon as Dalian sees her, she gets startled and runs to stand behind Huie. The strange girl asks Huie about his violin and whether she can see it. Then another strange boy appears who knows the girl standing there and apologizes to Huie if Crystal bothered him, and he also asks to see the violin. Huie agrees and gives him the violin. The boy tells him the violin makes strange sounds and must be broken. He pulls out a small tool from his pocket and fixes the violin, then gives it to Crystal to try. At first, Crystal plays it horribly, so the boy thinks the violin is still broken, but then she starts playing beautifully and magically, and everyone stands listening, completely absorbed. Huie and Dalian are watching, and Dalian tells Huie that Crystal plays way better than him. People start gathering around Crystal and calling her name. Huie asks if Crystal is famous for all these people to know her, and the boy gets nervous and tells Crystal they have to leave now, but Crystal is completely absorbed with the violin and refuses to let it go. The boy asks Huie if he can borrow the violin for a short while and promises to return it later. Huie agrees, and the boy thanks him and introduces himself as Daligo. He takes Crystal and leaves right away, and Huie and Dalian also leave and go to their favorite bookstore to buy some new books. There, Huie finds a signed photo of Crystal. He asks the store owner about Crystal, and the owner tells him she's a very famous performer who plays melodies of a legendary musician named Composer Du, who was the most famous of his time. Dalian has heard of that composer before and tells Huie he was very famous and wrote more than 57 musical scores, and no one could ever play his music. Anyone who tried died shortly after. His music was so enchanting that people compared it to drugs because of its effects. Later, it became known as the Phantom Scores, since their effects were exactly like Phantom books. And Crystal was the only one after him who could play the Phantom Scores perfectly, to the point that people came from all over the world and paid half their fortune just to sit and listen to her play. He tells them Crystal has a concert tomorrow in London where she'll be performing. Dalian tells Huie that they have to go to the concert, and they do. They try to get in and talk to the guard, saying they just want to go in to get their violin and leave, but Dalian insists on getting in forcefully. The guard stops her because they don't have a reservation, and an argument starts. Huie takes her away, apologizes to the guard, and they walk off. Huie asks Dalian why she's so determined to attend the concert. Dalian tells him Crystal must have the Phantom music book that contains all the scores she's playing from. Huie and Dalian walk around the concert hall looking for a way in without being seen. Huie notices the man who was with Crystal the day before exiting through a door and making sure no one saw him. After he leaves, Huie and Dalian go through that door and find a secret hallway with a very strange smell. They enter the hallway, and Huie lights his lighter because it's dark. Then someone tries to attack Dalian, but Huie stops him and takes the hit instead. He passes out and wakes up tied up next to Dalian. Crystal is in front of them holding the music book. Huie asks if she's going to play from it. She tells him no, because that would make Daligo unhappy. Huie also notices a girl sitting at the piano and asks who she is. Crystal tells him that Daligo made her to help her with the performance. Crystal asks Huie if he likes Daligo, and Huie says yes because Daligo fixed his violin and he has no reason to hate him. Crystal is happy with his answer and starts playing for him. But just then Daligo enters and asks Crystal why she's playing. He sees Huie and Dalian tied up and tries to untie them, asking Huie to take Crystal and run before the concert starts. Huie is confused because he thought Daligo built this hall for Crystal to perform in, but Daligo denies it all. At that moment, the hall manager, whose name is Kinder, enters. Daligo asks him why he locked up Huie and Dalian when they did nothing wrong and tells him to let them go. The manager says he'll definitely do that after they attend the concert, because it would be a great honor for Huie, the grandson of Wes, to attend. Daligo tells him he'll never let him continue this concert or allow Crystal to perform in it. Kinder tells him he'll change his mind as soon as he hears Crystal play. Dalian tells him he wants Crystal to play because once people hear her, they'll be enchanted and obsessed with hearing her again like addicts, willing to pay huge amounts of money. That's why he keeps Crystal's concerts very rare, so people will pay more when they find out she's finally doing one. Daligo tries again to stop Kinder and tells him he'll never sacrifice Crystal or let her perform in his concert. Kinder mocks him and asks how he could care so much about a machine like Crystal. That's when Huie is shocked to learn that Crystal is not human. She's an automaton. automaton. Kinder gets fed up with Daligo and shoots him, telling him to enjoy Crystal's music and locks him up. Daligo is severely injured and tells Huie that he created Crystal, and her only task was to play music until Kinder found her, gave her the Phantom Book, and forced her to perform to make more money from her. Daligo tries to get up and pulls a knife from his pocket, cuts the rope around Huie, and Huie quickly unties Dalian. They run because the music Crystal played was the Twilight melody, so powerful that the entire building collapses. Everyone escapes with their lives except Kinder and his men, and the mission ends as the book is destroyed along with the building. Then we go back a bit to when Huie had just entered the aviation field. He was very skilled, and all the soldiers were impressed by the way he piloted the fighter jet, including his commander Ace, who grew very close to Huie. But after a while, Ace lost his mind and gathered his entire squad, which included Huie, under the pretense of a flight test, and took them all out one by one. Huie tried to stop Ace, but Ace was chasing him too, planning to finish him off as well. But while Ace was firing at him, the key to the library that Huie had flew off, and when Huie tried to grab it, his jet spun around, which caused Ace to miss his shot. So Ace decided to let him go, saying Huie was lucky and managed to escape. Then we go even further back and learn what made Ace reach that point. There was a time when Ace was sitting, deeply upset, because the war had ended, and for him, the war was the time and place where he could express all his repressed emotions. After the war ended, he had nothing left to do except write about all the feelings inside him. When he got back home, he sat on his bed, feeling hopeless, but then a strange little girl appeared in his room and started talking to him in an even stranger way. She asked him if he had heard anything about phantom books. Ace told her that a phantom book could give its reader magical powers. Then he told the girl that she looked very strange, and from the way she talked, it sounded like she was the one who made phantom books. The girl didn't answer him. Instead, she asked him if he wanted to learn how to make a phantom book. Ace was curious and wanted to know how, so she told him that it was possible to create a phantom book from the words he wrote, because any phantom book had to be written by someone who poured strong emotions into it, whether joy, sorrow, or anger, and he needed to care more about his emotions to make a phantom book, and she would help him with that, because her name was Raziel, librarian of the Lost Library of Raziel, and she was the one who would adopt his book once it was finished. Her words had a deep effect on Ace, and he wanted to make a phantom book just like the girl said. Time passed, and Ace kept trying to write his book until the day came when he eliminated his own squad, with only Huie managing to escape. But after Huie's jet spun out of control, he managed to regain control and return to chase Ace. He started speaking to Ace, telling him that he was going to free him from his suffering, and destroyed his plane. Huie was happy with what he did, because to him, he had saved Ace, who had been dead inside for a long time. As for Ace, he fell from his plane and found Raziel there with another person, and they told him they had to get rid of him because he failed to make them a phantom book. It wasn't worth the effort they went through to bring him back from the dead. Ace was confused, but they explained to him that he had been dead for a very long time, and they brought him back specifically so he could write them a phantom book. But he couldn't, and that's why they were going to eliminate him. And it turned out that Huie had known all along that the person in front of him wasn't really Ace. That's why he wanted to kill him and end his torment. Then we see the girl who was with the little boy in the very first scene, sitting alone, sad and feeling lonely, saying to herself that she gave the boy the key so he would come one day and get her out. But it seems like that will never happen. But when she turns around, she sees Huie behind her, bleeding and badly injured, and he smiles at her. She's completely shocked. Then we go back a little and see Huie and Dalian sitting, and he's reading the newspaper and tells Dalian there's news about someone in London yesterday who looked exactly like a zombie and didn't respond to bullets. Huie suspects it has nothing to do with phantom books and thinks it must be some human-made experiment. Their curiosity takes them both to investigate the matter, and the next day they head to London and find that the city is indeed full of zombies, with groups attacking people. Huie takes them down and grabs a few newspapers to read the news, but as he reads, he notices something strange. Several newspapers have the exact same text written in a slightly odd way, but his own newspaper has the story told completely differently, the way he's used to, so he suspects that the newspapers might be carrying the same kind of text found in phantom books, which is why they're controlling people's minds and turning them into zombies. Huie decides to go to a factory in the city that produces those newspapers, but as soon as he arrives, he finds the factory very strange, and the people working in it even stranger. They meet a man who calls himself the professor and invites Huie and Dalian to sit with him for some tea and a chat. Huie agrees and follows him into a library. That's when Raziel, the girl who once appeared to Ace, enters, now known as the Red Princess, and the man beside her is the one who finished off Ace after his plane crashed. Turns out that both of them know Dalian, the Black Princess. Raziel doesn't like Dalian at all, and they start arguing intensely. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, the professor starts talking about his newspapers, and he realizes Huie knows the truth about them, so he confirms it and tells him the newspapers are indeed the reason for what's happening to people, because long ago, he was the one responsible for producing phantom books. But the problem was that they were hard to spread since people didn't like reading books, so he decided to evolve the idea and print his phantom books in the form of newspapers to control people, because everyone reads the paper. And since he knows Huie will be an obstacle in his way, he shoots him while he's not paying attention, and Huie falls to the ground, bleeding. The professor also tries to kill Dalian, but Huie, injured, grabs Dalian and jumps out the window with her. They escape and go into hiding from the professor, but the professor sends the townspeople after them to hunt them down. And since Huie feels like he's going to die, he decides to fulfill the most important mission of his life and asks Dalian for permission to open the library. Dalian agrees, but instead of pulling out a book, Huie enters the library himself. Inside, he finds the girl from earlier, sitting and talking about how sad and lonely she is. When she turns around, she sees Huie, injured. Huie tells her there's no time to waste. He came to get her out, just like he promised when he was a child. Turns out Huie is the same little boy who was with the girl in the beginning. He takes her hand and they run, trying to escape the library. But they are confronted by the library's guardian, who stops the girl from leaving and separates her from Huie. He leaves her soul trapped inside the library while her body remains outside. He captures the girl and ties her up, while Dalian grows very worried for Huie, who isn't moving. Huie is still inside the library, unaware of what's happening, like his memory has been wiped. The girl tries to help Huie any way she can. She manages to reach out to Dalian and asks her to give her the power to control the library so she can save Huie. Dalian, desperate to save him, grants her permission. The girl frees herself and reaches Huie's soul and gives him a book, telling him to read it. Huie does, and as he starts reading, all the zombies in the city disappear and his soul returns to his body. But due to his severe injuries, he still can't move and remains unconscious. Meanwhile, the professor and Raziel have gathered all the newspapers they printed into trucks, preparing to distribute them across London and the entire world. But Hal and Flam arrive just in time. Hal burns all the papers and stops the professor's evil plan. When the professor sees Hal, he panics and runs away with Raziel. Thus, the professor's evil plan to destroy the world is stopped. Just as Hal is about to leave, he hears Dalian's voice calling for someone to help Huie, who's injured. Hal comes to help Huie and revives him the next day at the mansion, where Camilla, Arnie, and Dalian are all around him, very happy when he opens his eyes. Huie is also happy when he finds out the professor's plan failed and the world is safe,